Good
Good afternoon.
afternoon. Here we have a quiet little motel tucked away off the main highway. And as you can see, perfectly harmless looking, when in fact, it has now become known as the scene of a crime,
Dun, dun.
presenting Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
That was a lot more than two lines.
This is episode 49 of the Elbow Nudge podcast.
Of what podcast?
Elbow Nudge?
No. ELBOO nudge.
ELBOO Nudge.
Caroline, it is October.
It is here. Your time.
It's the
It's
most wonderful time of the year, as we all know.
for you. It
For everyone
is.
listening, welcome. You are amongst your peers.
We're here for all the ghouls, gaffs, and
The
Caspers.
stairs.
Yep. With the first episode of ELBOO Nudge. Throughout the month of October, we will be covering movies that are a little bit more on the spoopy side for all you spooksters out there, you Halloweeners, as you like to call them, Tone.
That's right.
And we're starting off with a horror classic, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
Now,
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say this movie this was Alfred Hitchcock's first dip into the horror genre. And it was I think this is one of the rare occurrences of a horror movie making it big. It's like this one and The Exorcist, I think. But I had always wanted to see it just because I'm a huge respecter of Alfred Hitchcock. This is our second movie from his that we're doing on the pod. The first one was Rebecca. And I've always been interested in this movie. And, I'm a self-proclaimed scaredy cat. There's a lot of horror movies I won't watch. I'm too scared of it. But so for all of you real Halloweeners out there like Tony, the list might not be super scary. Don't get your hopes up because you got to put up with me a little bit there. But this one, I mean, you can't go wrong with it, right?
Were you scared of Psycho?
I was scared of the infamous shower scene. The way it's framed, the blurriness and everything, I was leaning back in my seat, like almost covering my eyes, but I didn't want to look away. Obviously, I want to know what happened. But I was going like, no, 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 no.
It was pretty well done. Alfred seems to be he seems to know what he's doing. This guy.
Sir Alfred Hitchcock.
The
From
fabulous Alfred Hitchcock.
I need to make a quote of that, like Tony, about Sir Alfred Hitchcock. This guy seems to know what he's doing.
The fabulous Caroline. Did you not see his tour?
Oh, that's right.
The
The
fabulous
fabulous
Alfred
Alfred
Hitchcock.
Hitchcock. He was such a character. I was reading into some of the prep work for this movie. He was very anti spoilers for this movie. He would make movie watchers so when you bought a ticket, you didn't just buy a ticket. You had to sign an agreement that you would not arrive late to the movie.
This sounds like my kind of guy.
I was reading here, where is it? So before Psycho premiered, movie theaters would play shows on rotation all day long. People would frequently just come into the middle of one and stay until the middle of the next showing and would leave. They wouldn't sometimes stay for a whole movie. They would just come in, be like, oh, this is playing. I'm just going to sit here for like an hour and then I'm going to get going. But Hitchcock made all the movie theater owners sign a contract that they would not let anyone in until the start of the movie. And once they were late, once the movie started, you lock the door. You don't let anybody in once the movie starts.
So he fixed cinema.
He
Why would you let anyone in the halfway point of a movie?
I know, right? I think the only time I've ever experienced something like that was I watched the Lizzie McGuire movie halfway through, but I watched Lizzie McGuire, the movie, on its own. Like I went and I saw it with my mom and my brother. And then we saw another movie that came out that like the next weekend, and we thought it was okay. We weren't that impressed. And as we were walking out, the Lizzie McGuire movie was already like 30 minutes in the theater down the hall. So we bought a ticket for it, and we went and we sat in. We're like, all right, we're just gonna go see half of the Lizzie McGuire movie.
Wow.
But that wasn't
And
for a
did you
movie
like
that.
it? Half
Oh,
of the
of
movie?
course. Hey now, hey now. I mean, how do you not?
That's
But
a big finale.
that is. But it's like I had already seen it. This is not like a new movie for me. I'm just re-experiencing it again. But for Hitchcock, he's like, mm-mm. You come in, you get there early. He even had where is it? In the foyer of the theaters, he had a cutout of himself pointing to his wristwatch, and it would have his voice coming out saying, "The manager of this theater has been instructed at the risk of his life not to admit to the theater any persons after the picture starts. Any spurious attempts to enter by side doors, fire escapes, or ventilating shafts will be met by force. The entire objective of this extraordinary policy, of course, is to help you enjoy Psycho even more." Signed, Sir Alfred Hitchcock.
So he made like a Uncle Sam poster of himself, but as a cutout.
Yeah, pointing to his
I
watch
want
instead of to
you
you.
to get
Yeah,
here on time.
exactly. And then he would have foyers in the theater play like 10 minutes to Psycho time, 5 minutes to Psycho time, and then his recording would come on.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with this.
But he was so like, no, you have to watch the whole movie. Like, don't just, he didn't want this kind of like old mentality that people were bringing into the pictures to be like, oh, I'm just going to go catch what's on. He wanted it to be an experience, a story, a tale, end to end. And it's so crazy because that's how it is now. That's how movies are now.
He said, I don't want to hear anyone whining about having to get here early for my movie
I don't want to hear anyone whining about the runtime for my
of
movie.
Psycho.
Yeah, Psycho. I made Rebecca. I made the birds. Well,
I
the
think this
birds
is all
wasn't out
great,
yet.
Caroline.
I admire him so much for that. I love that was something that I just had to get off my chest right here at the beginning because when I was reading that today, I was like, oh my gosh, I love him. That's so great.
So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. First episode of ELBOO
A
Nudge.
boo nudge. Did you like it?
I did. I really liked it. There's just a lot played into this movie for me. I love old movies, the black and whites, the way everybody talks. We talked about this with Rebecca. I don't know if you remember that conversation, but the the huge part of it was how people talk, the way they talk to each other, the way it's shot, and the fashion, the music, and everything, the camera, even like the kind of graininess. It just all has such a timeless feel despite it being old. And then Hitchcock really plays into that with this movie. I love the music. The music adds so much to the atmosphere and everything. And it's it was a really really good watch. I thought it was going to be a little bit dated in the sense that maybe like, oh, this is scary for the 60s, but this is not scary for like what's now. But and that might be true. I think like for experienced spoopers, Halloweeners like you, but I still found myself like on the edge of my seat, like thrilled. And when the first murder happened, it's so I feel like it's not too long, but it is drawn out enough to where you're like, ah no, and you're forced to like experience this like and then even when the second murder happens, it's like, oh my gosh, no. I was still like, ah. Yeah, I liked this movie. I was very pleasantly impressed and surprised.
I think the music does a lot of the heavy lifting for the scares and the discomfort while you're watching some scenes.
Absolutely.
There was one scene that I found really horrifying,
Oh
and it was
yeah.
right at the end. It's after you see Mrs. Bates as a skeleton,
Mhm.
and then you see Norman Bates run in dressed as his mom with the knife. And
Oh yeah, yeah,
just the
yeah.
way that was framed, the black and white, the way it was framed, and the way he runs in with like a deranged smile,
Yeah.
that's gonna be forever in my mind. Like my heart sank watching that. It is so creepy, and I loved it.
So especially the whole time you're like, where's his mother? Who's his mother? And you and I, we were bamboozled by that. We were placing bets on like where she is, what she looks like, and like who do we think the mom is? Like who's the actress that plays the
She was not a
mom? And
ghost,
yeah,
unfortunately.
or that she was a ghost. Like that was another theory. Things like that. But and I was even like, is there a mom? Like I was catching on a little bit, but then I was thrown off. I saw like the voice and the shadow in the window and stuff like that. And that twist is really, yeah, it makes your brain kind of go, wow. And then especially the way he comes in with this, and Norman Bates, you see him, he's just kind of like a shy boy. You don't really suspect anything super wrong with him. But when he comes in and that crazed look on his face, you're so right. Like that was so unnerving.
And this is where you hear that horror sound. I don't know if it was from this movie or it was just like the Wilhelm scream of horror. But when he had the knife up and you hear the dun 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 dun, like that screeching sound. I can't get it that high, but the screeching sound of that noise. That's like such a classic sound. I don't know if it came from
It's got to
this
have
movie or
come
not.
from here, right? I mean,
I guess.
this is the OG, the original.
I would assume so.
I was reading that scene and the shower scene were meant to be silent because Hitchcock wanted us to like take in all of the uncomfortableness of the murder and everything. But who's the where is it? The score is written by Bernard Herrmann, and Bernard Herrmann, the score is mostly composed of like strings. That's why it's sound like and when he was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna write a score for this part of the film. And as soon as Hitchcock saw it with the music, he was like, that's perfect. We're keeping that in. And later on, Hitchcock even said that. He said, and I quote, 33% of the effect of Psycho is due to the music.
Oh, I love that he used a percentage.
Yeah, yeah, he can.
Did I say a percentage or no?
I don't think you did.
Okay, because in my mind, I would have said like 90%.
I think I think you did say a percentage. Maybe I just didn't remember.
It would be
But
so funny if I said a different percentage from like 2 minutes ago. No, but it's a lot. Like I feel like there's a lot of scenes where if the music wasn't scary in the background, it would just be a normal scene that's just comfortable and oh, all right, she's just packing her bag. Oh, she's just driving. That's fine.
yeah, the music conveys the emotion of the scene. When she's
Yeah,
driving,
big
you're
time.
tense with her. You're like, oh, come on, girl, drive away.
So they do have some of that paranoia horror where she's just like in her head and worrying
Yeah,
about what people are going to say. And that was pretty good, but the music added a lot more to that. You felt
absolutely.
uncomfortable.
The way that it even would frame like the cop that was following her and everything, and you're just like, I don't like that cop.
What was up with
I,
the cop story?
he was just suspicious of her from the beginning because he never really comes back, right?
No,
And
no.
I feel like that doesn't really lead to her discovery, right? Because I'm trying to remember how Sam and Lila and Arbogast are able to like pinpoint that she went to the motel, because I don't think it was fully because of that police officer. I know
Arbogast was,
the PI.
yeah, Arbogast was visiting every single hotel and motel along the way
Yeah, yeah, that's what it
until he
was.
finally found Bates Motel.
So that cop didn't really play a role into how she was caught, but I think he was just like, she's acting suspicious. I'm gonna tail her a bit, see what's going on. But he definitely played into that paranoia of like, I'm being followed. They're gonna catch me. Do they know something's wrong?
Yeah, that cop, he was ruining it for her. She could have gotten away with it.
If it wasn't for you, cops
Yeah, he
and your
followed her for a
dog.
while.
He did. He did. And I feel like poor Marion Crane. I was rooting for her. Obviously, I knew she was
You're
gonna
rooting
get.
for her to steal the money?
I was rooting for her to steal the money, stick it to the man. No, I was just rooting for her to. I know she was gonna go back. Like she was gonna go back and take the money back and try
I
to
did
make
not
it.
think that for a second.
She even said it. She said it when she said like I have to go back to what, Phoenix.
Yeah, but she said it like if nothing happened where like her boss didn't see her and she wasn't freaked out by the cop, I feel like she would have went through with taking the money.
I mean, yeah, you're
She
right.
even
I'm
spent
just.
$700.
She spent
That's a
$700.
lot of money.
I did the math. I found the inflation kind
I
of
found
thing.
it, yeah, for 40K. How much?
Yeah.
How much is it?
Where is it? I have it in my notes.
Oh, I didn't write down the exact number, but
Oh, here we go. Here we go. So $40,000 in 1960 would be approximately 352,000 in 2020, and then the $700 she paid for trading in her car would be equivalent today to around $6,100.
that's a lot.
She was walking around with a lot of money
Yeah. So that's the impression I got. I feel like she was fully ready to go
to
through
just
with it
go.
if she wasn't caught so many times.
I feel like she was ready to go through with it, but then stopping at the Bates Motel and just kind of having that, like, what am I doing here? There's still time to go back and make it right. That's what got her to be like, all right, I gotta go undo this.
Well, the time to herself?
The time to herself, and also I think just like the situation of it all. I'm at this scary motel on the side of the road. What am I doing here? I shouldn't even be here. I should be at my own house. Probably thinking about her sister and her, living life on the run. And then, she just gets all that sinking in and she's like, no, I got to go back. I got to make this right.
She was ready to leave her whole life behind overnight.
She was ready to leave it all overnight. And then she met Norman Bates. And that was the turning point.
I'll be honest with you, Caroline, I did not get a lot of what was going on until I like rewatched it again and then read up on it a little bit. Because when we saw it, I didn't know where Sam lived. I know they spoke about the business trip, and they like snuck around during lunchtime and things like that. But I didn't know he was in California.
He's in Fairvale, California.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she's in Phoenix.
I didn't know she wanted the money to marry Sam. I thought she wanted to just start a new life. And I thought that was a little strange because the small slice of life we got to see from her was like okay. It wasn't very stressful or out of the ordinary. She just worked a normal job. And then, she had that guy hitting on her, but then she had to leave her job early because she had a headache. And it just all seemed very normal. And then it just came out of nowhere to me, my understanding through the first few. She's like, all right, I'm leaving. I'm ready to leave all of this behind. And then she just started packing her bags, and taking the money, and that's it. New life, new me. I found this strange on the first viewing, but now I guess it makes a little more sense with the extra details.
Even when I think about it though, it's a little crazy. She's got her own house with she's living with her sister in Phoenix, Arizona. She's got a job, she's got a car. The only thing is that the guy that she's dating doesn't have like a good stable job. He's working at a hardware store. And
Only makes $40,000 a year.
is that what he said?
No, I'm kidding. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, he is raking it in. No, I don't know how much he makes, but he definitely says it with a little bit of shame. Like, I just work at, I manage a hardware store.
And she says, like, let's just get married. And he goes, and what? Like live in the apartment behind the hardware store? Like he wants more money before they get married. And I think that she's just kind of, I don't know. She had a good life with her, in Phoenix. She's got all these things, except maybe she's just working too many hours at her job or whatever. But then she's like, all right, I'm leaving it all behind with $40,000 and a dream to go and have my man marry me.
Yeah, that's the only thing I didn't get, the motivation. And I know there's many reasons, it's not just one. For love, a change of lifestyle,
For the
all of
thrill.
that. Yeah, the thrill. I understand all of that, but I don't think I saw any of those to the extent where it was like, I'm ready to do this now and pull the trigger. Like, I'm stealing $40,000. Let's go.
I do like how perfect the opportunity is, though. And I think that a lot of people have been in a situation like that where you're entrusted with something important and you're like, if I just do this, if I just do that, like I can mess this whole thing up. And the difference is she
I had a
actually went,
moment like that.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to share on pod, but
I would love to.
Okay.
I'm not gonna mention the name of where I worked, but it was when I worked at a delivery place.
At the job that shall not be named. And
Yeah,
I know what that means.
yeah. It was a delivery place,
Mhm.
and you load up these trucks with certain packages. I think I told you this too. And obviously, ahead of time, before I tell the whole story, I was never gonna go through with it, but
Everybody has that thing in the back of their
it
head
was
like,
tempting in a very funny way because I saw big boxes that said Konami on it.
"Oh,
And I'm like, whoa. And I knew exactly what it was immediately. It was boxes of Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
oh my
I'm like,
god."
no way. If I take these right now, I'll be the greatest duelist in Duelist Kingdom.
It's time to
Yeah, it was so many Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I'm like, wow. I looked at it for longer than I should. I'm like, all right, let me get back to it.
You're like, "Oh, no, they're definitely suspicious of me."
Yeah. No, I would have never done it. But that was the most tempting out of everything that's there. I was like, whoa. Because it's just so awesome opening a whole box of packs and then seeing what you're gonna get, the loot box mechanic for real life.
I know, yeah,
For
I'm
real
aware.
life though. So
Oh, okay, okay. You I
so this is
just
extra like dopamine
extra
hits in the brain.
extra tempting, you're feeling it.
Yeah.
I've had a moment like that.
Oh?
I was working at a place and I was in charge of the data entry, and part of it was I think it was one of my supervisors gave me one of those bank bags where it's like a long like rectangular bag has a zipper on top,
Yeah. Yes.
and she said, "Caroline, here, hold on to this, I'm gonna go and like take that home with you and bring it back tomorrow." And I opened it and there was a lot of cash in there. I never counted it. I
Was it
just
$352,000?
I just opened it enough to where there was a lot of cash in there. And of course, same preface, I never would. I would never ever. But that thought crosses the mind like I could buy a lot of loot boxes with this.
Man, look at all those characters that
Look
you
at
could
all these.
unlock on Genshin.
No, stop. Don't call me out.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's tempting. It's very tempting. Although I shouldn't say very tempting because of course we wouldn't do it. But that thought crosses your mind. The difference with Marion Crane is that that thought crossed her mind and she went through with it.
Yeah.
And that was her downfall.
Until she was being peeped at by the police
Yeah.
and her boss on the
And
street
Norman Bates.
and Norman Bates. Well,
He was actually peeping.
oh yeah, but she didn't know that.
Yeah. But he was peeping in the traditional peeping sense.
He was creeping and peeping.
Yeah. Creeping and peeping.
Let's talk about Norman Bates for a little bit.
Before we do that, I just want to do one more thing on Marion Crane. Alfred Hitchcock wanted to really symbolically dress her up in the sense that all of her clothes were purchased from department stores because he wanted her look to be off the rack and that she was kind of living just enough to get by, but not enough to splurge, you know? And he wanted women after seeing the movie to be like, oh, Marion wore that in Psycho. Like, he wanted it to be kind of like that. He wanted women to identify with her. But also, you see her in a white bra in the beginning of the movie. And then afterwards, after she's stolen the money, when she's in the motel, she's wearing a black bra. That means she's gone bad.
Bad.
Yeah.
She broke bad.
Bad to the bone.
She became a girl boss.
Bad.
See, I would have never understood the outfit thing because I just thought like she's
It's
dressed
just,
so fancy. Like she's wearing
yeah.
a dress just for casual, like to she's wearing a dress to rob money and leave a state.
She's wearing a dress just to do crime.
Yeah, that's really fancy. So I would have never guessed like, oh, that's an everyday girl just like me. Wow, she wears JC Penney.
JCP.
Yeah, I would have never thought that. But
She
that's
wears
interesting.
Saks Fifth Avenue. Wow, amazing.
That is casual wear, right? At this time, like what's
Yeah,
what's
that
more casual than that? Like there's no.
I don't think women
hoodies.
started wearing pants until the 80s.
When did women start wearing hoodies?
90s? 80s?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But that's
I'm trying to
casual. That's
think.
lounging wear.
I think like the 70s, it must have been like the hippie movement. That's when girls started really wearing pants.
Uh,
Those are like the jeans, because before that is the 60s.
boot
And
cut
that's what, yeah, the bell
or flared.
bottoms,
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Bell bottoms.
bell bottoms,
Yeah.
apple bottom jeans,
No, that's the 90s.
boots with the fur,
That's 90s.
whole club
No, that's early 2000s actually.
looking at her.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's just wearing a dress to do crime. You
Yeah,
gotta
on her off
respect it.
day.
On
On
her
her
off
off day.
day,
She's
on
wearing a
her
dress.
sick day, she's like
On her headache
gonna
day.
she does her hair, she puts on her dress, and she sits in her house.
Yeah. That's another thing. I was going to say this while we were watching the movie, but these women, they put a lot of effort into their hair.
Yes,
I
they
see the
do.
curls, like just for, again, just like a normal day. There's a lot of dimension to the hair. They're going all different kinds of ways. There wasn't no messy bun in the 60s,
Yeah, there wasn't.
you know.
Everything was spick and span.
They haven't invented the beanie yet. You couldn't put a beanie on.
I don't even think I mean, they must have been doing rollers then.
Yeah.
That's when you see them put their rollers in their hair and then fall
Yeah, and
asleep
then
with the
sit at the
rollers on.
hairdresser. Yeah.
And then you wake up and you put your hairspray. Like,
It looked really nice, but I also thought like, wow, that's a lot of work.
that's very interesting to go from like that to now where, they would do that every day. They would do that just to sit at home. And like right now recording, I got the messy bun going. And it's just like, oh my gosh. I can't imagine getting up every day and being like, gotta do my hair.
Yeah, put curls in your hair
And
every
like
day.
that's like out there. Like that's really fancy because like my hair is straight, so I just brush it and go. But like for them, they do the whole doodads.
But also, this is a movie, so the hair is supposed to look extra nice.
Okay, we were talking about the realism
I
of it.
assume there's messy bun ladies in the 60s.
It's possible.
Yeah,
I do know that in the 60s, a lot of women had their hair short, so they wouldn't have to spend too much time on it.
that makes sense.
It would be easier to style.
I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
I think so too. But all right, let's move on to Norman Bates.
Let's talk about Norman Bates.
What do you think of old Norman? Young Norman?
He's an interesting guy because I've heard the name.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
I heard Norman Bates before. I have no idea what or who he was. And then when we finally see him, it was amazing. He said, "Mr. Bates, Norman Bates." Like, huh? That's the guy.
That's him.
What is he gonna do? Now, first, I got the impression that he was gonna be this suave, smooth talking kind of guy, and
Interesting.
yeah, because he a regular looking guy. He's not like a well, the conversations of like, who's the name of that guy? What's the name of that famous killer that he was able to?
Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy. Yeah, like that was a big topic around him, right? Like he was handsome
Yeah,
and
very
kind of looked.
suave, charming.
Yeah. I thought he was kind of going to be like a Ted Bundy because he didn't look like some sort of, I don't know, typical creepy, ugly looking, ready to kill you kind of guy. He looked unassuming, and but that's until he started talking though. When I first saw him, he had it together. But then as it went on, it was like, oh, all right. He doesn't seem like he knows a lot of social cues.
Mm-hmm.
And
Doesn't have a lot of people skills.
yeah. Yeah, it started falling apart a little bit, especially when he was watching Marion eat. He's like, "Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
hungry. I'm just gonna watch you eat."
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you eat like a bird. Tip for guys out there: if your girl's eating in front of you, do not say you eat like a bird. Don't say you eat like anything. Don't comment on the way your girl eats.
And don't tell them when you invite them to your room full of birds that are taxidermized in your room.
Especially in that setting that they eat like a bird.
Don't take your woman to a room of death and tell her she looks like an animal that you killed.
Yeah, very astute, Tony.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But what did you think? What did you know about Norman going in, and what do you think about him afterwards?
I always knew that infamous picture, with him at the end where he's looking up and he starts smiling, where he's like, "Why, Norman, he wouldn't even hurt a fly." Like I always I saw that image, but I had no context behind it. So I didn't really know what to expect from Norman Bates. I think part of me thought he was going to be kind of I had the opposite expectation that you did, in the sense that I thought he was going to be even more like blubbering and stuttery and just kind of like not giving eye contact and stuff like that, but he ended up being he's a little bit charming at the beginning when he's talking to Marion. Like, you can tell Marion sympathizes with him a little bit. She's very like, well, why don't you leave? Why do you let her talk to you that way? Like, she sees that he's just a nice guy, r/slash nice guys kind of thing. And I was picking up on that. I was picking up on like, oh, poor Norman. He's just being like dominated by his mom, and he's not able to really like do what he really wants to do. And then it's like, oh ho ho, little do I know.
He was charming at first. He
Yeah, he
was.
was
From the
he was
moment
like
you see him grabbing the keys, giving her the room, showing her the room, he was pretty charming. And then,
making little jokes here and there.
yeah, all the way up until he invited, well, no, all the way up until he had the conversation with his mom, and then they're like yelling out the door
Yeah.
or out the window. And then Marin could hear that conversation. Up until that point, when he comes back, I feel like that's when it starts going downhill and you get to see what he's really like.
You start seeing that not everything is right in the head of Norman Bates.
No.
And I like his little phrase where he's like, 12 cabins, 12 vacancies. The way
Every
he,
time.
every time, the way he talks is really cool, in the sense that he has a
Cool
pattern.
dude.
Let's hold the horses on complimenting the
Don't
psycho.
agree? Okay.
But then, then we start seeing it's just I like a lot of the unseen aspects of Norman Bates, because I was thinking about this just last night. On the surface, like how we're talking, he's pretty charming. He's kind of cute in the sense that, like, a puppy, he's kind of adorable. And he had some pretty cool lines here and there, but then I started thinking, it's all face value, because when you think about his actions being like a peeping tom, I thought about, what if there are times that we don't see, obviously, but like it's inferred he's peeping on girls, either that he's killed or that he hasn't killed. That's why he immediately was like, I'll give you number one, I'll give you cabin one, because it's close by, like right by the office. And it's like, we know why you're gonna put her in cabin one. And he puts the couple all the way in cabin 10. And then I started thinking about, like, he goes and he dug up his mom's corpse, and he's embalming her and stuff like that. And then the animals that he kills, like, that's a sign of a serial killer too, the killing of
Yeah, killing
animals.
puppies and cats.
Yeah, and for him,
That's how you
birds.
start. Yeah.
That's how it starts. And he's taxidermying them. So that's where I'm like, he's had his he started off killing animals, and then he started taxidermying them. And then makes you wonder, what else is he using his embalming techniques on? And it's just, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, oh, he is ugh, one sick mamma jamma.
Well, you're right. He was definitely peeping on everyone in room one. You can tell.
Yeah.
Everyone who went off the main highway and somehow found Bates Motel, if you liked them, they went to room one. I don't know if he killed all of them. I get the feeling that a lot of people survived Bates Motel. And maybe it was just girls that he liked. And then he had that inner conflict of his mom or himself feeling guilty
Yeah.
for liking her. I think those were his victims.
I want to believe that Marion is his first murder, but it's like, for him to have enough, I guess, courage or gusto to go in there while she's bathing to kill her. It's just, I don't know, it's a little too calculated.
The way he cleaned up that murder scene, this is
Yeah.
not his first time.
Yeah.
But I love the twist.
The twist is so wow. Wow. I know that this is based on a book. And the book was pretty infamous. Psycho by Where is it? By Robert Bloch. And I'm not, I should have done my research for this a little bit more. I was more focused on the movie than the book. But I know the book gives some details that there was like abuse from Norma to Norman Bates. And that played a huge part in why Norman Bates is like that. I also, where's my notes here? Oh, this is a little side note. But after Alfred Hitchcock bought the rights to make this book into a movie, he also bought as many copies of the book Psycho as he could because he didn't want it to spoil the ending of his movie.
My man. Love this guy. He gets it.
He gets
He
it.
gets
He
it.
he really gets it. But
He knows the value of a surprise and avoiding spoilers.
the book was pretty infamous for being like a scary but also a gross movie. Walt Disney at one point refused to allow Alfred Hitchcock to film at Disneyland because Hitchcock had made, and this is a quote from Disney, that disgusting movie Psycho. Even Paramount Pictures gave Hitchcock a very small budget to work with because of how much they dislike the book Psycho and its they what they quote disgusting elements that they didn't want to see on screen. However, when it became a sleeper hit, Hitchcock made the picture studio a fortune. In fact, to this day, Universal Studios has a tram tour where on the lot of Universal, they have replicated the motel.
Where you could stay there?
I don't know if you could stay there. I think it's
Okay.
just kind of like a here. You just point to it the way Alfred did in his trailer.
Alfred just waits there.
They have a cutout of him now there where he's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
good afternoon.
Yeah, yeah. What do
I
you
don't
think
know
about that?
about the what.
The book and how
It's interesting. I don't know if we want to get into it fully on like the podcast, but it reminded me a little bit of Lolita. You know, we talked about off pod about the book Lolita and how Kubrick adapted it and everything.
oh, is this a similar situation?
Just in the sense of how um I know for Kubrick when he was making it, people were like, "No, do not adapt that book. Like that book is terrible," and things like that. And it's the same thing with Hitchcock. People were telling him in the '60s, "Do not adapt Psycho. Like this book is disgusting. It's gross. It's terrible." And I haven't read the book. I don't know any details about the book other than what we see in the movie. I want to assume Hitchcock is true to the story. I don't know if he changed anything significant. If he was buying up the book to be like, no, 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 don't know what happens. But I think, you know, as a movie, it's great. I wonder how it how it compares to the book. I don't think I ever want to read the book though. I think that's a little too scary for me.
Really?
Yeah, I also
You think it'll
probably
be
just
more scary than the movie?
I think it also will have a little bit more introspective into Norman Bates's psyche, and I don't know if I want to go into that. I like what I got in the movie, the unseen and the seen.
Okay. I guess what I wanted to ask you was what do you think about what you said about Walt Disney, just in general, like forbidding Alfred Hitchcock from, I guess, working with him because of the content of what he directed and just having any association with the book.
It's interesting because when you think about it today, I feel like that's almost what's happening now. Like Sam Raimi just directed Multiverse of Madness, which is owned by Disney. And then you flash back to the 1960s, and Walt Disney's over here saying, nope, no Hitchcock. We don't want to associate our like child friendly dreams magic brand with that of Hitchcock and his Psycho. We don't want to mix the two. Where it feels like now that's not strange, you know?
The corruption is seeping in.
The corruption, or now that Disney has just become the giant monopoly that it is. It's got all its claws and everything.
Yeah.
Whereas at the time it was just Disneyland. So I think in the 1960s, what were they up to? Sleeping Beauty? I'm trying to think of like what
60s?
movies.
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, Sleeping Beauty came out in 1969. 1959, 59. Let's see.
I'm trying to relate it to something, and all I can think of is I won't be able to think of the exact directors, but Disney and Lucasfilm have been doing this when they announce a director for one of their Star Wars films, and then leading up to it, they have a movie before they're set to direct, the Star Wars film, and then that movie's a flop. And they're like, no, that director's not on board anymore.
Like, was it Colin Trevorrow
Yeah,
with
he was
Star
one.
Wars?
Yeah.
And who was gonna do Doctor Strange 2? I'm trying to remember.
Doctor Strange was going to be by Scott Derrickson.
Yeah, yeah. And then they were like, no, we're gonna go with Sam Raimi.
But that's only because Scott wanted to make an actual horror film.
I forgot about that, yeah. And then they were just like,
Yeah.
Raimi.
Like, Raimi, you could balance a little bit more.
Put a
Yeah.
little Marvel in that horror.
Yeah, a little bit more lightheartedness with some horror.
It's interesting though to see, and this is like not, Kathleen Kennedy or somebody who's just at the helm. This is actually Walt Disney who's like, no.
Yeah, that's what I find interesting. It's just a subject matter. He's like, no, we can't have anybody like that.
I wonder what Hitchcock wanted to film at Disneyland.
Pinocchio?
I'm thinking The Birds.
Does it need to be in a theme park?
I'm thinking that if I can remember correctly, there is a scene where they're at like a fair, almost like Greece. It's like a fair, and the birds start attacking people, and that's in '63. So I think if my theory is correct, I think he wanted to film the birds, or at least a scene of the birds at Disneyland,
At the greatest theme park in the world. Not a bad choice.
the happiest place on earth.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would have been interesting. I kind of want to see the birds now.
With that title, I have no interest in that movie.
Really?
Yeah. It sounds too
It's
close to Birdemic, I think is the name of that really bad horror movie. Like really, really bad.
oh, I don't know.
It's like
I
famously bad, like The Room or something.
oh.
Yeah. So when I hear The Birds, it's like, is it good?
I mean, it's kind of like one of those campy horror films like The Blob. You know The Blob, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that, but it's a pack of birds that go around and kill people.
All right.
I'll tell you what though, I saw it when I was a little girl. This is not a The Birds episode. We're just going to nest this in Psycho. I saw it when I was a little girl, and in South Texas in the fall, we get what's called grackles, and they look like crows. Like they're like crows. They're black, black birds, and they look just like the birds in The Birds. And I saw that movie when I was a little girl, and I remember we were driving home from church one day, and on the phone lines for we were driving for maybe 15 minutes, and all of the phone lines were covered in birds. And
Nice.
in South Texas in the fall they migrate south. So they were like, I guess, staying over for the layover to fly further south, but I remember looking up and like continuously on the phone lines there was grackles and being so scared. And my mom was like, "What? What is it?" And I was like not talking or saying anything. And then as soon as we got home, I bursted open the door of our minivan and I ran to the front porch and I was like, "Dad, open the door. They're going to get us."
Did they ever swoop down
Oh,
and
they
get
swoop.
close?
Oh, they swoop.
Yeah.
They definitely swoop in
They
the
were
birds.
attacking?
Not in real life, I mean in the movie.
I was
But
talking about real life. Did they ever swoop down and
I was traumatized. I was thinking about the movie because yeah, they
okay.
definitely swoop. But in
Okay.
real life, they really only swoop down to eat. Like if you, I have neighbors that would go out and throw breadcrumbs out in the street, and they would swoop down and eat the breadcrumbs.
I've been the victim of a bird attack before.
Oh my gosh!
Several attacks from the same bird.
What?
Yeah.
Where is this bird?
This was when I was a little kid and we went to Ecuador, and at my grandma's house that I was staying at, there was this bird that was perched on top of a tree that was at the intersection of like a lot of things you have to go to. Like there's a playground right around that tree. Then there's like a store that you can use, like a grocery store to just pick up what you need. So you have to go through this place plenty of times. And this bird at this time was well known for not liking little kids. Like it would swoop down
What?
and peck your head, the top of your head.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
literally flutter around on top of your head and peck at it until you like run away. And I remember all of us like had to run and like slide underneath, the playground, the slide, whatever. You got to find cover. And he was terrorizing this playground. And you will get attacked if you're not fast enough. And then, this was a concern for the community. And whenever, like, it got to the point where I didn't want to go there anymore. And I would only walk there with an adult because for some reason it did not attack adults. And I remember being there with my uncle, and he put like he would have his hand over my head the whole time, just in
Oh,
case it swoops down and pecks at me. But it was a real problem. And then once it was the end of our vacation and we left, they updated us and they said that they scared off the bird because they were like throwing rocks at it, and it never came back.
wow.
Yeah,
Problem solved, but that is scary. I
they
would
didn't
cry.
solve it soon enough. I was
You were traumatized.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Didn't
scary
sleep with any
though.
windows open.
I don't blame you honestly. Like that would scare the bejesus out of me because like, I'm scared of bats. I've told you my bat story. I can't imagine
Yeah.
actually having a bird like come and peck at me. That
Yeah,
would
attacking.
yeah,
Yeah.
mm-mm. Like a blood curdling scream would run through me. No way. So this movie might actually scare you. It might bring back memories that
Maybe.
were repressed in you and being like, oh.
Maybe that's why I'm making up a story and say, "Oh, that sounds boring," but on the inside it's like, "No thanks."
No, not today, birds.
So I want to bring something up about
Okay.
Psycho.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was a very interesting ending because
Yeah.
if this was a more modern movie, I feel like it would have ended as soon as they
Like caught him or
caught
yeah.
Norman.
He comes
And not
out,
the police.
yeah, he
When
comes out in
Sam
the
catches him.
dress. Sam catches him and is able to hold him and then end.
Yeah, disarm him from the knife. And I feel like it would have just faded to black and probably just ended right there in a modern movie. But then it keeps going. Or, they probably had a conversation like, thank goodness we survived that. All right. And then they show the car driving away. They probably kill Norman or something. I don't know. But yeah, this was a lot more explanation afterwards. And I really liked it. It seemed very different and needed. The explanation of his mental state and why he was doing what. There was a lot of closure, like everything was answered and wrapped up,
Yeah.
and it just ended pretty perfectly. Everything was tied up. No loose ends except for that cop. What was that about? But anyways, perfect ending pretty much.
You know what's really interesting, and I agree. I fully agree with that. I liked the ending. I liked the explanation, just to kind of finalize it, make the story round out with a little bow. I agree. But you know who didn't like the ending?
Walt Disney.
Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh,
He hated.
he directed
He hated it.
a ending he hated.
He did. I have right here a quote. He felt the scene was boring, and the movie came to a grinding halt at that point. The scene had also been ripped to shreds by critics over the years as the worst scene in the movie, that being the psychiatrist scene where he's explaining everything.
Uh-huh.
Hitchcock and viewers felt the scene was unnecessary, overly obvious, and too talky, slowing down the action and suspense of the movie. But there was a strong pressure from studios and the investors, the funders of the movie, to relieve the pressure from earlier scenes, to explain the action to audience members who might be confused about the big reveal. So the scene was kept in. And over the years, it started becoming more and more appreciated.
I like that.
I think it's needed. I think that it was definitely, you know,
So he's talking about the very end because I liked the the police officer, detective,
no,
whoever it was, explaining.
he's talking about the psychiatrist scene where the psychiatrist comes out and says like, "Oh, his mother's in his mind."
He's like, "Well, I didn't get the answers from him. I got it from his mother." That
I
one.
Yeah,
He had to continuously repeat that.
the mother is the one that told me.
Now remember, I didn't speak to Norman. I spoke to his mother.
So did he do it? The mother
He
is the
did
one.
not do it.
The
The
mother
mother did.
confessed to his crimes. But, you know,
Okay, so it was
I've
that
seen
whole
enough,
scene.
I've seen enough Law& and Order to know that that's actually how, or at least I shouldn't say actually, but in Law& and
Actually, how
Order,
Law and Order does it.
that's how Law& and Order portrays it as well, as being like, if it's a person who has multiple personalities, they will attribute it to being like, "No, the mother did it, not, Norman." However, you're still, I think it's innocent due to mental defect, but you still have to, like, you're still sentenced.
So where do you think Alfred would have ended it? Where we said?
Yeah, I think so.
Look at that. I would have here's where I would have ended it.
Okay.
When they bring in like the water or whatever for Norman, and then he goes, "Thank you," like in his mother's voice. And then that's it. And then close the door and then
Oh,
just walk away and
I
then just
like
let it
that.
fade to black. Yeah.
I like that a lot. I like that.
That is
And end it with,
right
like,
there.
an
Yeah.
ominous tone of just, like, a bum, bum, and
Yeah,
then the
yeah.
credits roll. I like that. I like that a lot. We're just gonna turn it into Lord of the Rings and have all these different endings in
Yeah.
Psycho.
We'll have an ending where he escapes and then it says Norman
Oh,
Bates will return.
Norman Bates will
Wait,
return.
there's a Psycho 2. And he does return.
He does, yeah.
He does. He
Is that
does
a
escape.
uh, are we gonna acknowledge Psycho 2 as canon? I guess it was
I
made.
really don't know.
It was made, but it was not made by Hitchcock. However,
That's not canon.
Anthony Perkins did come back as Norman Bates, the same
That's
actor.
money.
That's money. You gotta
That's
also
$40,000 in his pocket.
Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins, who played Marion and Norman, after this movie got severely typecasted. Marion Crane was always typecasted as like the girl who would get killed or the girl who was like stealing something, like the criminal girl. And Anthony Perkins always got casted as like the shy, like the Norman Bates type character, shy boy but hiding a dark secret. So and they were quoted about it. Where's the interview?
So it's been happening for decades.
It says Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh said that they did not mind being stereotyped forever because of their participation in this movie. They said in interviews they would rather be stereotyped and be remembered forever for this classic movie than not be remembered at all.
I get that.
That's very Whiplash.
In what sense?
Well, you know how he talked about how he would rather die young but live on in his legacy than live a long life and not achieve
Not be
anything.
remembered.
Yeah, not be remembered, exactly.
Okay.
So I think for them, it's like we're not worried about a variety of casts and movies or jobs. As we hit this movie, we'll be remembered forever in this movie.
The first thought that came to mind was Marvel actors. We spoke about it before and we just saw the video recently with Anthony Mackie, but you know how no one really cares about you as an actor, they just care about the character.
You're right.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of them are like, I'm getting paid. Not a big deal to me.
Mhm.
You know,
It's a
I'll,
job.
I'll I'll be Loki forever. But then, there's some actors that are like, I want to flex my muscles. I want to
Like Harrison Ford.
challenge myself. Yeah. So I get both sides of that. But then I totally get I'm fine. I'm getting paid. I'm making a good living. All right. I'll be the person who dies in every horror movie. Sure.
There are Harrison Fords and there are Mark Hamills of actors.
They're
And
different.
yeah,
But
I-
Mark
I'm
Hamill did Joker.
well, I'm saying like Mark Hamill loves that he was Luke Skywalker. He embraces that fully. Even like on Twitter, when people ask him like, "Would Luke like this?" He's like, "Yes, Luke would like that." Like he fully embraces, loves, dedicates so much time to the fact that he was Luke Skywalker. Whereas Harrison Ford, if anybody mentions Han Solo in an interview, he gets like visibly grumpy
My man.
because he's like, I'm more than Han Solo. I'm Indiana. I'm
Harrison
like,
Ford.
yeah, I'm Harrison Ford.
Get off my plane.
Get off my plane. He's Harrison Ford, and he wants to be known as Harrison Ford. He doesn't want to be known as Han Solo. But Mark Hamill is like, I don't care if I'm forever known as Luke Skywalker.
I get what you mean. But I guess I was a little confused because Mark Hamill wasn't really typecasted.
No, no, I'm just saying like as in the attitudes of the actors.
Yeah. There's some people we have now that love being typecasted.
Absolutely.
The Rock.
The Rock typecasts himself, I feel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's like, all right, I'll always be the buff guy in action
he,
movies.
he just plays The Rock. He's no character in any movie. He's The
Yeah,
Rock.
and then of course his companion in life, Kevin Hart. Yeah, I'll be the short, funny guy.
I'm the short, funny guy
Yeah,
that
no big deal.
teams up with the big buff guy.
Yeah, and they're perfect. I mean, why would you be upset? You're getting paid a lot.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I see both sides of that. I get it.
I see all sides. I think that it just depends on how serious. There's so many what's the word? Like dimensions to being an actor. And I think it's all permissible except when you're somebody like Jared Leto. Where you're like method acting and stuff like that. It's like chill, chill. But I respect all types where it's like, no, I'm a serious actor. I want a variation of roles. I want to explore this craft where it's like, okay, okay. But then it's like, hey, I'm the Falcon. I'm getting paid. It doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, you do you. Get that bag.
The Jared Leto thing, apparently a lot of that was made up.
By Jared Leto or just made up, made up.
I think people took a joke he said and they ran with it. Like you brought that up because were you thinking about the Suicide Squad stuff, like sending
Yeah.
rats to people and stuff like that?
Hmm.
Yeah, apparently there is a video clip of him saying that kind of like jokingly in an interview, and then people ran with it and thought it was real.
But there's like all these interviews where Will Smith even says he was sent like a box of condoms.
I don't know what was actually what he actually did and what he didn't, but I think 50% of what people said he did sent and did was not true.
I find that so funny. I'm just thinking about like the cast and crew of the Suicide Squad who were like making up different things that they got sent from Jared
Yeah,
Leto.
yeah.
Jared sent me a box of cookies over the weekend. They were
Oh,
so threatening.
that jerk.
He knew I like chocolate chip,
Is
but
he
he sent
method
me
acting as a
oatmeal
baker?
raisins. Ugh.
Yeah. He definitely did said some weird things. I just forgot what. There's a video breaking it down because there's so many stories of what he sent.
There's so many stories of him in movies. Like there's a what's that one? Dallas Buyers Club. There's a clip of him saying that like Barack Obama personally called the casting to make sure he was put in the movie.
Nice.
And then the casting director was there and was like, "No, you went through the same process as everyone." And he cuts her off by being like, "Sure, okay, tell the lie." And it's like, "Jared, what are you doing? Jared, stop."
Maybe Barack did call, but to make it look legit, they still put him through the same process as everyone. But they
We
definitely
can't
had
show
him.
favorites.
Yeah, they definitely had him picked out.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
You know what's kind of funny about talking about like these movie stars and these star power, just to kind of divert the conversation back, was Alfred Hitchcock. The reason he even made this movie was because we talked about like Rebecca, right? We talked about how like Laurence Olivier was a very established actor. Joan Fontaine wasn't, she was new, and he would mess with her. And, but other people that were almost in the running were like Olivia de Havilland and Vivian Leigh, who were like these really big actresses and things like that. And throughout the years of doing these films, he also did like this movie called Vertigo and North by Northwest. And I think he did, what was it? I'm trying to remember another one, but a lot of these movies have really like these were stars, these were Hollywood stars, these were movie stars. And he had said that working with them was so time consuming and expensive because they would require a lot. They wanted their trailers, they wanted things done in a certain way in a certain time. And he always felt that he was just kind of like a butler to them. And he's like, I'm the director of this movie. So when he was given a small budget for Psycho, he was like, okay, I want to get unknown people. I just want to get an actor or an actress who's just willing to come in and work.
He didn't want any divas on set.
Yeah, he didn't want any divas.
So how was it?
He said that
Everyone played along. Nice.
everyone he there are reports that he would jokingly call the uh the actors like master or miss. So like Anthony Perkins was Master Perkins, and he would like pretend to to usher them through. He also did play a huge gag on all of them. He would set a chair in the studio that said it had all their names, like Norman Bates, Marion Crane, and then there was one chair that said Norma Bates. And
Nice.
the cast would ask him, "Oh, who did you cast?" And he said he would always answer misdirection wise. He would say, "Oh, you just missed her. She had already shot all her scenes for the day." And eventually, the only one who knew other than him, and like the writers, of course, was Anthony Perkins, who played Norman. And he said that uh, Alfred told him like, "Don't say it, don't say anything." So even the actors who were in the movie, when they watched the movie, were blown away by the twist because they all
You
had
see,
actually
Caroline, this guy gets it.
they
He
all
gets it.
actually believed that there was an actress for Norma Bates.
That's amazing. That's how you do it.
Oh, also like the people who play Lila and Sam, because they were the ones that filmed the twist, but everybody else, was all in for the ride.
So obviously, I'm going to compare it to a little bit more modern movies, but same thing for Star Wars. With the reveal of Empire Strikes Back, right? That was another time they did that.
Yeah, yeah. That was another one too, I think, is when it's revealed that Luke and Leia are siblings. There's like a
That's the
live
exact thing
picture.
I referenced.
I
That's what I
think
meant.
oh, okay, that's in Return of the Jedi.
That's when they find out.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because in Empire they kiss, remember?
I don't know when they kiss.
Okay. In Empire they kiss, and in Return of the Jedi they find out they're
But
siblings.
yeah, I have seen that picture where they're like just finding out.
They're like gasping. They're like,
And that's probably the thought in their mind, like, but I kissed her. But we made out.
"We made out, and we're twins." Ugh.
Was it also a surprise about Darth Vader?
Yeah, I've always heard that that's the like that made everybody go like, "What?"
You see, this is how you make movies, Caroline.
Oh my gosh.
You got to keep it genuine reactions. And of course, I got to mention my all-time favorite movie, Infinity War. Nobody got a real script. Nobody knew what was going to happen.
Especially Tom Holland.
And yeah, especially Tom Holland. And I don't know how true it is, but because I don't think it was ever confirmed, but I think they said apparently Benedict Cumberbatch was the only one that had the real script
Oh my
of
gosh.
what was. But I
How
think that was just people making jokes like, "Oh, he's Doctor Strange, so he
yeah,
knows."
yeah, he knows, how many and how many scripts do we win? 1.
Yeah, but that's a wonderful idea. No one really knows. I love that.
I do like that. I do like that aspect to filming, and it keeps the actors I think it also makes the actors wanna see the movie.
I would hope they want to see the movie they're in.
I think Harrison Ford didn't wanna see Star Wars when it was
I
coming
get
out.
it. You
He
know
was
what? I
like,
get it.
"Mm."
And then compared to him being so excited for Indiana Jones,
I know, right?
he
I always
loves
think of
Indiana
that
Jones.
I always think of that was it, what's his name? Gordon Ramsay, where it's like Gordon Ramsay talking to adults. It's like, "You donkey! You effing donkey!" And then Gordon Ramsay talking to children. It's, oh, precious.
Yeah, yeah.
That's Harrison with Han Solo and Harrison
With
with
Star Wars in
Indiana.
general, he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"You donkey."
"You donkey! What are you? An idiot sandwich." And then with Indiana, "Oh, precious."
It really
Dun, dun, dun,
did you see
dun, 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 dun.
his D23 experience like appearance?
No, I didn't.
He actually showed up for the announcement of Indiana Jones 6 or what are they up to now?
I think it's 6.
1, 2, 3,
Wait,
Crystal
4?
Skull 4,
Oh, that's the
5,
5th. 5th.
5, 5. Yeah, and he actually showed up. He cared that much, and then I don't remember his exact words, but he was definitely saying like, "Oh, we're so excited for this new one. Love all the fans, blah blah blah. Love being here and this opportunity." Like the stark contrast between Indiana Jones and Star Wars for him.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was thinking about it, it makes sense because for Star Wars for a lot of people was their introduction to sci-fi. for a lot of people, and I think that even includes Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I
Like,
think you're
that
right.
doesn't appeal to him probably, and, like, he loves adventure and, that's probably movies that he prefers, and he got to be a hero of a probably, like, the best adventure movies ever.
I think what also like played into that, I think you're absolutely right because yeah, sci-fi, and you and I have even had these conversations about like how I love fantasy films and you're like fantasy's not really my thing. I like sci-fi. Everybody has their kind of genre where they're just like, "Yes, I like this." And it definitely shows on Harrison. But also I think what played into it is that for Indiana Jones, isn't that Steven Spielberg, right? I mean, that's Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And George Lucas is not Steven Spielberg. I remember reading somewhere or seeing something or even just a conversation, but either way, that the script for Star Wars was so bad. I think it was Mark Hamill who said that Harrison Ford would frequently clash with Lucas and at one point showed him the line and said, "I want you to say this out loud and see if it makes sense." So for this
What's
the
wrong with "Are You an Angel"? I don't get it, Harrison.
So for the original trilogy, a lot of what the script was just like, this is the message you should convey, but you say it like you say your own words. That was the majority of the filming was say the words in your own way because the script was just kind of like a guide because the wording was so bad.
I don't think he even wants to take credit for that either, because I've heard that too,
He's
but
so far removed. He's like, no.
yeah, because about like the line like "I love you, I know," and then people would ask him like, "Did you improvise that, or did you think of that on your own?" Because I guess that was that's like the story around it. Like he just
Hmm.
said it on his own, but he's like, "No, we all thought of it as a crew, and that's what we came to the conclusion that we all like that line." So I don't really know how it
He
actually
doesn't.
went down.
Yeah, he doesn't want to take the credit for being the one that's like, I had to stand up to George
Yeah,
and
I,
tell
I
him
feel
that.
I feel like he really did come up with it on his own, but he doesn't want like the crowd to cheer and be like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
awesome as Han Solo."
He
Like,
doesn't want
no,
another
guys,
reason
no.
for them to need him.
Yeah, like no, no,
No,
it
I don't
wasn't
think I
me.
will.
I, I love Harrison Ford with this. With
We need to do a Harrison Ford movie at some point.
yeah, but let's do Psycho right now, Caroline.
That's so true. Yeah, we go off on a tangent as always.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you know this was the highest grossing movie of Alfred Hitchcock's career?
I believe it.
This
This
is
is very,
infamous.
very good.
It's also just it's infamous. I think before I even saw any Hitchcock movies, I knew about Psycho. I just hadn't seen it.
Yeah, we spoke about what we knew vaguely before going in. The shower scene, everyone knows about that.
Everyone knows the shower scene. I found out that the actress, it wasn't actually her, it's a body double, but she said while filming it, she said she wasn't scared, she wasn't bothered by it, but when she saw the movie, it profoundly impacted her. And she later remarked in an interview that she realized how vulnerable a woman was in a shower. So she said going forward, she would either lock her door if the door had a lock, and if she didn't, she would either take a bath if she was alone, or she would have her husband wait in the bathroom with her if it was a shower.
I always lock the door for a shower.
I don't. and
That's a mistake. You will be murdered.
no.
I hope Psycho has been a eye-opening experience for you.
You know what? It kind of has been. This morning I took a shower and I locked my door
You never
because
know.
I
You
was
never know.
alone. I was home alone, so I was just
I just would never want anybody to walk in while I'm taking a shower, even to like brush your teeth. Like, all right, I'll be out soon. I'm wrapping up.
I guess so. It's just like the awkwardness of it all. I've been in a situation where it was like at camp, I think it was church camp. I was in the shower and there were girls coming in and out and I hated it. I
Lock that
hated it.
door.
I hate I remember I
Lock
did it.
it.
I I didn't lock it. And there were girls that were like, "I'm just coming in to brush my teeth. Okay, I'm leaving." And then I'm just like there like
Yeah. And then you're probably even done with your shower for like 10 minutes, but then there's like
yeah,
everybody coming in and out.
I just can't get out. I'm like, "Can y'all get out?"
Yeah, what if there's somebody doing their hair or I don't know what, it's like, I'm done here. Yeah, can you guys walk out?
That happened. I turned off the water because at camp the hot water would run out. So I had to turn off the water and I was just standing there in the shower like, "Okay, guys, I'm done. Y'all need to get out. Close the door."
So, also, I've told you this before, but I've had a very similar experience where for a long time as a kid, I was scared to take a shower just
That's
because of
right.
my
That's right.
imagination. Like, I did not want to close my eyes in the shower when I washed my hair and for the shampoo
Mhm.
to go over my eyes. Like, I did not want to close my eyes for a second because I thought something would get me. I thought
Wow. Michael
Michael Myers
Myers?
would get me, or a shark would get me, or
Shark.
yeah, Jaws. I thought of Jaws. Like if I closed my eyes, I thought I would be on a raft, and then Jaws would get me.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why, and I haven't even seen these movies at this time. This was pre-horror movies, but just like watching trailers and hearing about them, my
This
my
is like
mind got the best of me.
this is pre-Psycho because you would think that after watching Psycho, you would get a fear like that.
Right? Yeah.
But your own imagination was working against you.
Exactly. Good thing I'm old enough to watch Psycho now, and I'm still gonna keep that door locked though.
We're on very opposite ends of the spectrum because I am the perfect victim for Norman Bates. I
Mm.
I have my music on loud, so if anybody's screaming, you
Oh
can't hear it.
yeah.
I take a shower with music. I'm over here.
Door open.
My eyes are closed 60% of the bath. Like the time I'm showering, they're closed. I only open them to
Wow.
do the body wash, and then I take like a good 10 to 15-minute shower, maybe 20 if I'm feeling like I want to treat myself, but I take long showers. So I'm the perfect victim.
You hear that, Norman?
No, 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 no. I'm starting to lock them now.
The door's open, literally
After
and
this
figuratively,
recording, I'm locking doors.
and put a chair on the doorknob.
And baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low.
Yeah, I'm glad you learned your lesson, Caroline. Now you're safe moving forward. This
Do
is
you have
very
anything
good.
else you want to say about the film? I finished my notes. I'm very, very happy about that.
Oh, okay. Just smaller things, just like I didn't look into the history of cinema and Alfred Hitchcock's impact on it and all that, but
You did
I
make
feel
an
like he did
impact.
a lot of unique camera angles and a lot of like,
Oh yeah.
when Arbogast was, I think it was him, when he was like falling down the stairs,
Mhm. I
like the
like
way the
that.
camera followed him, and especially the last scene when it's revealed that Norman is dressing up as his mom, and the camera angle is there, the way that the mom was revealed to be a skeleton, the way that the camera zooms in on Marion, like everything just looks really good. Like I'm pretty sure these were like new ways of filming that he was doing.
Yeah. I love the use of that blurry background because for the shower scene, that's how we see Norman enter the bathroom. You know, we're seeing it through a blurry shower curtain. You see the figure, and it's already like, oh no, there's somebody there. And that scene later on when it's the fruit seller and she turns the body around of the mom and the camera's looking at her, and then in the background, in the unfocused background, you see Norman run up in that
It's
getup.
good stuff.
Yeah, and then the camera looks at him and the camera doesn't do anything fancy. It holds on him in that smile and that outfit, and it's just poetic cinema.
And yeah, on top of all that, I just want to mention that compared to horror movies now, this is pretty tame, unfortunately to say. Like there it's just crazy what we see now. But I just love how there's a lot of scenes where it's just talking and like solving the mystery of what's going on at the base motel. I especially like the scene where Marion was eating like a bird and they were having the conversation, and that scene went on for a while
Yeah,
of just
yeah.
talking and just getting to know Norman and how he thinks of life and his mom and his position at the motel and what he sees for his future, and then how Marion reacts to all of that. And it goes on for a while, and it's like we don't even see this anymore. Like I don't know if we have the attention span for a movie like this, but
Absolutely. Even the up and downness of the conversation, how it starts off really like unassuming. It's just kind of pleasant. They're just talking about, where they're from, what he does, and then when you go from there, flash forward to the end of the conversation where she says like, "Is that your mother? Like, why don't you put her someplace?" And it starts like spiraling, like someplace, like a madhouse. I won't put my mother in there. Like that's where it starts building and building, and it's like, okay, not everything's right with Norman Bates. That's
Yeah,
where
and
the tension starts growing.
and knowing everything we know now, you could really break down. You could spend so much time just talking about Norman and like
Yeah.
what did he mean by that? Knowing that it's really him. Like, can you say is he still defending his mom? Does he feel guilt for killing his mom, or is he like that far gone that does he realize that he's taking the place of his mom? Like all those different angles you can just explore in conversation, but that's why it's so good. And I also want to mention that I'm calling it the twist, but for a long time while we were watching the movie, I wouldn't even consider it a movie with a twist because I feel like movies that we see now, it's definitely a twist, but here's how I think of it. The movies that we see now that have a twist is kind of setting it up from the beginning. Like for some reason, whether from the internet, whether from reviews or from directors, how certain like M Night Shyamalan or
Mhm.
we'll know like, all right, this movie's gonna have a twist, or the movie will telegraph that from the start. And throughout
Yeah.
the whole movie, you're trying to figure out what's the twist, what's the twist. I want to get it before it tells me. This movie, it doesn't do that. I don't feel like it's telling you there's a twist for a long
You're
time.
right. It's very misleading.
Yeah,
It doesn't want you to think that there is a twist.
it's not until they visit the sheriff and the sheriff says, "Well, she's been dead for 10 years." Like what?
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 So
And
ghost confirmed.
there's not even like, I feel like if this was, as you said, any director that is known for this, there would have been music that would have been like dun dun, like,
Yeah,
aha, there's a twist, we got you.
gotcha.
Yeah. But no, Alfred Hitchcock is like, what do you think? She's been dead for 10 years. And the movie just kind of like, the music doesn't change, the just what Lila and Sam just look at each other like, what?
Oh well, hold on. Also, to be fair though, I forgot another thing that hints towards a twist is the silhouette that you see. Or no, it's not even the silhouette. I think you just see like the wig, and we know it's a wig now. After Marion dies in the shower, is not Norma Bates that you see walking out the bathroom or running out the bathroom. You see a woman, and we assume it's his mom.
You're right. Was it a woman or was it Norman Bates dressed as a woman?
It was him. Yeah, it was him dressed as a woman, as his
Oh, yeah,
mom.
yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. We don't know
We
that
don't
yet.
know. Yeah. We're thinking it's a woman the whole
Yeah.
time, that it's his mother.
Yeah, yeah.
But he doesn't frame it as like this movie's got a great twist. He just kind of presents it. Whereas he's probably thinking and he knows that the audience is there going, "What? Then who killed these people? Like what's going on?" But the movie doesn't react to that. The movie's just taking itself seriously and going forward.
But I really like that though. Even if they did just that it is the mom. I said it while we were watching it, but I'm like, oh, so they just Friday the 13th this thing, even though this came first. But
I'm trying to get the reference. So,
in Friday the 13th, famously, the first
uh-huh.
movie is not Jason who's killing, it's his mom that's killing everybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It is not Jason with the hockey mask. It's his mom.
What?
Yeah, all the kills are done in first person, camera view, and you assume is him. And it's interesting because I don't know how viewers saw it at the time, because I don't know what they were supposed to assume the movie was about. But if you watch it later on, like for people who don't know Friday the 13th, you're gonna watch this movie and assume it's Jason because I know this guy with a hockey mask, but it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's his mom who does all the killing in the first movie.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm like, oh snap, they got it from this. This is what they're doing. Is Mrs. Bates
I
doing the
never knew
killing?
that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they must have gotten it from from Psycho.
So I thought that would have been cool too. And that would have been a twist. Or I guess, yeah, in the moment it would have been like, oh, I thought it was Norman Bates the whole time. But
It's a twist, but not in the film trope-y way that twists are done now. It's an actual twist.
This is done really well. I really liked it.
This is not the last Alfred Hitchcock movie we'll see because this is the third
The
movie.
Birds is next.
The Birds is coming. We got to have Tony conquer his fear of that repressed memory of the bird
Yeah,
pecking at its head.
you're right.
I'm
That's
just
what's
glad
been nagging at me my
I'm
whole
just
life.
glad there's no movie named like The Frogs or something. I would die.
Oh, I got you. Don't
No,
worry.
no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no, 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 no,
it's
no, no.
called Max Keeble's Big Move.
Max Keebles. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I really hope we're not planning this. It's crazy, but
I
when I was
hope there's people who know Max Keeble and they know the reference I'm making.
if you
I
do, write it
hope.
in at elbownudge@pod@gmail.com.
I'll show you the clip right after this.
No, 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 no. I
It's
can't.
not a real frog.
It's not?
No, but it's so funny
Okay.
that it relates to you in this way.
Oh, okay.
All
When I
right.
was thinking about movies that have a scary frog scene, my mind, just like my innocent church going child mind, instantly thought of Prince of Egypt when the plagues are happening and the frogs are jumping out of the river.
Oh. Oh, that's scary.
That's a scary scene because did you ever see the Prince of Egypt?
No.
I'll show you that clip, but it's hundreds of frogs. So many frogs jumping out of this river. And I'm like, no.
I saw a real clip. Apparently that's on TikTok, but I saw it on YouTube, of course. Did you see this where like there's this guy who's
Yes, the frog army
there you
guy.
go. Yeah.
Yes. He's like saving tadpoles that are out in this swamp or whatever and putting them in his own like little lake or something to make a frog army.
And it's infesting the neighborhood with frogs.
It's an ecological problem.
There's so many frogs.
He filmed it. I watched on the H3 pod. They kind of covered it briefly, but they showed the one where it was like billions of tadpoles, and I was like, somebody's got to stop this guy. This is an Avengers level threat. Like, somebody really has to go and just nuke this lake.
So was Thanos really wrong?
Mine would
Same.
my snap would just be to eliminate all frogs.
That's gonna be your wish in
That's
your
my
mind as you
wish.
snap. Then get ready
Reality
for like
can be whatever I
billions of
want.
mosquitoes, billions of flies.
That's what the spiders are for. They catch them.
Frogs do way more damage. They're out there eating like look.
Oh, don't make that sound.
Yeah, they're out there, man. They could reach spiders. They gotta wait,
They have to lay that trap.
but frogs are more efficient.
I hate frogs. I hate frogs with a burning passion.
All right, so we gotta watch Max Keeble's Big Move to get over
No.
this. Turn your
And,
love into hate. There should
and
be
the
no hate in your
birds.
heart.
For frogs, there are.
All right, we're gonna open your heart to frogs. I think that's it for Psycho.
I think we can bid adieu to the Bates Motel and finally veer off this unbidden path.
Yeah, we're sticking to the main highway.
But everybody, this was the first episode of ELBOO Nudge.
Oh, boo!
Stay tuned for more spoopy tales and films throughout the month of October. It's a good month. We're getting into the best part of the year, Tone, because we got October, and then you shift hats from I picture you like a pumpkin hat to your turkey hat with gravy
Oh,
and
the pumpkin
dressing.
stays on. Then it's pumpkin pie.
I just picture like a comically large hat on you that's a jack-o'-lantern and then it turns into an actual pumpkin pie, like a flat hat, like a Dapper Dan kind of
So
thing.
good.
And then we start shifting our way into my season, the Christmas season. But before I let Christmas consume, as it always does, we'll let Halloween have its time right now, everybody. It's
Yeah.
ELBOO Nudge. We'll be back next week. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform, give us a follow, an honest review if you're a returning listener. If you're hearing us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for notifications.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye and good night.
Good evening.
Good night.
Have a nice long sleep.
Have a good nightmare. I think that's it. Bye.